Anyway, I was playing water polo. I was 15 years old, and went down to Huia. It was any normal Wednesday, and my mate Kieran would get dropped at my house, and my dad would take us to water polo. And then it's funny. So that I was the fastest swimmer in my team, and so I'd typically do the swim off, which is on. You imagine walking into Huia. Oh, sorry, it was Nino. Um, you imagine walking into Nino. The far side is where the swim off happens, where the ref will stand with the ball, and then the buzzers go and you swim off and you're trying to get to the centre and they'll drop the ball in the centre,
Right.
and then the swimmer is trying to like get the ball back to the next player. So I typically did that, but on this one occasion there was a kid doing a student exchange, which I ended up doing that same exchange, which is fun enough, but he was a kid from Arizona, and I remember and he was doing the swim off because apparently he was a good swimmer. And so for the first time ever, me playing water polo, I was on second in from the right. And we pushed off, and my dad reckons I pushed off. And then I kind of went down to the bottom of the pool. And so, like, everyone else is just swimming normally, getting into position. And then I come up real awkwardly on the side, and I take a dad looked like he said it was a real awkward breath. And then I went back down to the bottom and just stayed on the bottom. And
That's a deep pool too, right?
I mean, you couldn't in the that side. There was two. So you've got the like I couldn't stand up. Maybe I'd just be bouncing to stand
Oh,
up
okay.
in that part, and then it goes down like further down. So I was on this end, which would be the safer end, the shallower end, and then the kids' end was shallower again. Yeah, I think it was. It was angled up, and then and then because of how my dad is, um, like he said, everyone thought I was mucking around and like playing games and stuff, which is funny because it's not actually. I wouldn't do it during a game, but I guess we were playing Sacred Heart Girls, so it was a mix. It was a mixed game, and so I had some friends on that team and stuff, and then so I sunk down, and then Dad's starting to get wild, like Patrick, like, haven't come here to see you muck about, and like he's getting worked up, and so my coach tells one of my actually Kieran to swim in and get me and pull me to the side. So he pulls me to the side. My dad's like steaming out the ears. I can only imagine. Like it's embarrassing him kind of thing. He grabs my arm, pulls me out in the water, and he's telling me off. He says, "Patrick, I haven't come here to see you muck about." As he's doing this and pulls me to the surface, like my head just rolls onto the concrete side of the pool, and he can recognize that like I'm limp, and so he pulls me to this, and like he's got me there, and then he said he just got pushed out of the way, and there was a dentist there. There was a woman that was a ex like works on an ambulance, or she had some medical background, and so they instantly pushed my dad aside and they started CPR. And then the pool, Nino Pool, had just the week before they had decided it was wise to buy a defibrillator. So most uh, places, most event centres, pools, gyms will all have defibrillators now. And luckily for me, they got the defibrillator the week before. And so they put that defibrillator on me, and apparently they're like putting up tarpaulins because I had some friends from school who were playing, I think the game after maybe, so they come to watch. Or maybe they were filling in for Sacred Heart, I think. And they said, like, they put up the tarp, so they thought it was like, they were like taking out dead body kind of thing.
Oh,
Um,
that must have been so hard on your dad.
Bro, so then this is what the killer was, I think, for Dad, is they put on the defib, and so it talks to you, and it says, no heartbeat detected, preparing to shock, please step away. And so, Dad's hearing his son, like, seeing his son, like, dead on the ground, and hearing that, and he said that he heard the machine voice in his head for a while afterwards. So yeah, that's when I say like that would be pretty hard for me, old man. Me, then they were able to bring the defib did its job, brought me back. My heart rate was apparently going at like 400 when it brought me back. Like it's just, you imagine the charts, like
Sheesh.
just going like crazy. Then it settled down. They put me in in the ambulance. They cut me, and I was wearing because we were playing girls, I was wearing my best pairs of Speedos, bro. I had my best 2 pairs on.
Of course you did.
And they fucking just snipped them off. I was real gutted. And, like, I don't even know why, but they're like, obviously, I think they just don't want something, like, they're trying to work out what's wrong with you and stuff, and they're trying, I don't know, I guess, let's just get this out the way. So they cut my Speedos. But they were saving my life, so maybe I can forgive them.
A bit orthodox.
And then apparently I was just like, stuff's coming out both ends. Like, your body's just like in absolute shock. Like, what the hell's going on? So get to the hospital, and I think they were on the way to sending me to Wellington, but I was recovering well. So they just sent me to Heart Hospital. And then this is when I remember Kieran arriving, and because I was gaming at the time, and I can remember seeing him in the doorway, the silhouette in the doorway. And then my next memories is just being cold as fuck. And I was in the CT scan, so I was, making the real loud noise. And they had all these bags of ice on me. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, get this off me. I could not understand. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around why they were, like, keeping me cold. And I was telling them, like, I'm cold. Like, stop. Like, and I'd be throwing the bags away, and they'd keep putting them back. And I could not get my head around. I was like, what are you trying to do? Like, I was getting real frustrated. And I was told afterwards that they want to keep the body cold because then the heart doesn't need to pump so much. Like, it ends up slowing down your heart rate. And then they always like a slower heart rate because, like, as opposed to exercising, because you're more likely to go into bad rhythms. And so that's why they're cooling you. But I was like, what are you trying to do? It feels like you're killing me. Like, they were giving me this cold exposure.
Sounds brutal.
And then finally I got my blankets and they let me warm up. That was good. And then I just remember a couple times of people visiting, and I remember certain people visiting, and like a lot of my friends came, people from school, water polo coaches, and it was pretty touching time where, people come out, support my parents. Some people stayed in the hospital room with me, and it was kind of one of those nice moments where your loved ones stick up for you, and I'm sure people helped out my parents significantly as well, and then I was 10 days later, I went and got decided that I needed a defibrillator. So most people, if you go through a cardiac event, you'll end up likely getting an internal defibrillator, so an ICD, as internal cardiac device is what it stands for. And so I went to Wellington Hospital, and then went through the surgery, and they told my parents I think it was the first time was about 2 hours, because I've got to put leads through, like they put leads through veins down to your heart. So sometimes I get people to feel the lead, because you can feel some leads at the top here.
True.
And so they have to feed those in, and then they put in the device, and then they decided to put my device under the muscle, because I was very keen to get back to sports, and it's another layer of protection than it's sitting under the skin. So some people have it under the skin. And then so they do that, and apparently I woke up, and I clearly not like hospital stuff, because I woke up during the anaesthetist must have buggered up the calculations, and so I woke up during, and so they're like kind of still doing stuff, or like just stitching me up, and I just remember seeing all these bright lights, people with masks, and my first instinct was just like, I've been abducted. And I just start...
aliens or something.
Bro, straight up. I was just like, what the fuck? And I just start fucking like... And you imagine you got IVs and shit coming out of like veins, bro, fucking everything. And I'm just throwing around, like trying to fight. And you imagine I've just had my pec like cut through. Ooh. So I'm now fucking going like this. I'm putting up a scrap, and they're just trying to get their mask back on. And back out. And then, but because of that, they had to check all the leads and make sure. I just got cramp in my leg. So they check all the leads to make sure that they were right. And because I did that, this ended up swelling up massively. my chest, and so I remember coming like out, and I had this massive bandage, and it was just taped, and like they're trying to pressurize it back down because it was like up here.
Shit.
And apparently then they told me about it, and I like kind of remembered that I remember scrapping the surgeons and everything. So that was quite funny. And then I was then told by my cardiologist from the heart that I should only play golf for the rest of my life. And here I am 15, and they tried to put me on all these medications. And I tried them for a little while, but the thing with beta blockers, I couldn't have certain ones, but a version of beta blocker is they dull everything, and they lower like signaling from the heart and back and forth, which is supposed to reduce the risk of cardiac events. But if you imagine getting dulled everything, like that dulls your emotions, that dulls like joy, sadness. And I know I have a friend who has shakes, and they tried putting him on beta blockers for a while, and he actually lived on them for a while. But he said like he really noticed like he had no joy, like
It sounds rough. It's like the quality of life. Like, what's the point,
right?
if you can't enjoy all those things?
And so like I'm 15, and they put me in this like cardiac support group. And just a quick note here is I love so there's a story with one of the guys in the group had a cardiac arrest around the same time as I did, and he was 65 or something, had a daughter my age, and she did CPR. For some reason there was a mix up with the hospital on her father for 2 hours before the ambulance got there. And so most of the time they talk, and I was at a tramping club the other day, and they were talking about how like there's no point doing CPR past, like if you do CPR for an hour, I think the ambulance people will do it for an hour max. So you should always like low-key tell them you've just started CPR, because they'll do CPR for longer.
Right.
So you're going to maximize the time they'll do CPR. And so he had CPR for like, I believe it was 4 hours, bro. And he came back. But the standard practice is just like an hour. So like, it's interesting. But you also can't expect paramedics to be doing 4 hours of CPR on people. Like, it's very exhausting. So I think it's an interesting side note there. But anyway, so I'm in the cardiac support group, and with the medication, and they had me on all this medication, and I knew I had an appointment coming up, and I decided, no, I'm not going to take this medication. I'm going to go and do the tests, because they do like all the tests when I go in. They put on all the electrodes and check me out. And so I went in, and my mum's was on to me about the medication, because she knew I didn't like taking it. And so I had to I had to hide in tissues and stuff, and like scrunch them up, because she'd be looking through my bin and stuff. Well, I had to hide these things. And then I go into the meeting, they do all the tests, and the lady's like wrapping up, and she's like, thanks, sweet Patrick, you're all looking healthy. We'll see you again in 6 months. And I was like, sweet. And just so you know, I haven't been taking the medication. And then I was, just like madness comes in, leaves the room, gets another doctor, gets another doctor, and like all of this like massive hassle. And I end up talking to the like main guy at Wellington Hospital, some like foreign fella, Alejandro was his name, and he was the man. And I was like, he's like, Patrick, we really need you to take the medication, and it's just really about reducing risk, and we really want you to take it. And I was like, but I'm like, here I am 15, I'm just like, but mate, you guys were just telling me that like I was good to go, that I was healthy, that all my signals, everything was good, I was looking great. So what changed was that I told you I wasn't taking the medication. And he stops, and he's like, yeah, you're right, we did. You are healthy, you are looking good. And he's like, well, look, ultimately, he's like, I'm deciding that it is your choice. I can't force you to have it, but I would like you to, because he says it's a risk thing. And then I kind of got into the whole that balance of life, as you mentioned before. And I think he understood that, and I haven't taken any medication since. And I've had a couple issues, if you will, like here and there, but there's no evidence to suggest that you wouldn't have similar issues. But it's not flagged, because my heart's monitored all the time.
Right.
My data is all accumulated. And like, so drinking can cause these arrhythmias that I once had after, and guess what day of the year? I was having these drinking related heart problems.
Was it New Year's or something?
New Year's. So it's like, the chances are a lot of people go through these things. Well, I think anyway, but the data isn't there. But yeah, so I have, that kind of started my medical approach with those things, and like that balance of life, and live, as opposed to the general consensus of living longer, and they're just trying to reduce risk, and they know that, say, if people start running, the chances of them going into a bad rhythm's higher. But thankfully my parents supported me in wanting to just live a normal life, and since then I've done triathlons, I've done a half marathon, I've bungee jumped, I've done the odd substance, I've drunken, I've gotten smashed, like I do saunas, I do ice baths. I'd say, well, it's normal. I live normal. Like,
Yeah, you do.
I live hard. I go to the wall. It hasn't stopped me. It hasn't got my way, and I do enjoy not letting it stop me. And I went to one of these. They had a health support group for all the ICD